Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Adini Kembalola, and if you are joining me for the first time, it's good to have you aboard. Today we are going to be doing a practice question for the IELTS speaking test. So this is book 14. I'm using book 14, and then I'm taking the speaking tests for test 2. So if you do have the Cambridge IELTS book 14, just go on to page 52. You're going to find this speaking test there. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to answer each of the questions in the 3 parts. You know, we have part 1, part 2, and part 3. So I'm going to try to provide you sample answers to the question so that you can have an idea of how to respond to IELTS speaking questions. So the first one, which social media websites do you use? Now, to respond to this question, I'll say something like this. Most of the time, I make use of Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and WhatsApp, and that's because each of them serve different purposes, so I get to enjoy the different benefits when I use them. Now, if you paid attention, you'll see that I mentioned the ones that I used, and then I gave reasons for them. Now, if you open the book, you notice that the question always asks why or why not in parentheses, and it means that when you give your answer to one question, make sure you back it up with a reason. That's what you do mainly in part 1. Now the next question says, how much time do you spend on social media sites? To respond to this, I'll say something like, every day I try to spend about 20 minutes on each of the social media channels I use, and that's because it's actually very easy to, get carried away. So I put a specific time on it so that I don't, forget myself and just get lost in pressing my phone. Now, if you paid attention to that as well, I said the specific time, I said 20 minutes for each one, and then I gave my reason that there's a tendency to get carried away, to just, that thing when it happens to me a lot when I'm on Twitter. I just find that I just keep going and going, and despite the fact that I don't spend so much time there, as soon as I get the notification on Twitter, let's say it's Apoko Doctor or somebody, I just quickly, I go online and then I begin to read, and it just leads to other things. So you see that with that question, I tried to be specific and I gave my reason. Now let's look at the third question. What kind of information about yourself have you put on social media? Okay, so to respond to that, I would say on Facebook, for example, I have my picture, I have pictures of my siblings. Then I have, of course, my, what I do as, my career. I also have some of my poems. So these are, certain things that, tell people about me. Okay, yeah, you notice there's a lot of in that. Now that's because I'm thinking. And so you see that it's showing as much as possible. You don't want your thought process to show when you're speaking. But at the end of the day, I think I did answer the question. I talked about my pictures, my writing, and then, my career. Those are the things that you'd find on my social media. And I had to use an example. I used the example of Facebook. Now let's look at the first question. Is there anything you don't like about social media? To respond to this, I'll say something like this. I don't appreciate the fact that there are no controls or restraints to how much news can be shared on social media platforms. For example, during the recent killings in Nigeria, we find that some people took advantage of this, the flexibility of the internet to bring in information that was false. So I don't like the fact that you can actually upload anything or publish anything on the internet and it just passes as true. Okay, so that was it. You see that I talked about what I don't like and then I explained it a little more. That's what you do when you do the speaking test. You give your answer and then you give reasons for that answer. Okay, so that's it for part 1. Of course, this wasn't flawless because, I'm doing it before you. So the idea is, to just really get out to answer the questions. I tried as much as possible not to repeat the same words, even though you notice that social media kept coming up. So if you want to change that, you can have social media platforms, social media channels, the internet, and the rest of it. What matters is that you are fluent as you speak, your pronunciation is correct, your sentences are well, formed, and finally, you are using the right vocabulary, the right words from time to time. Now, this part 2 question says, let me read it to you. Describe something you liked very much, which you bought for your own. Describe something you liked very much, which you bought for your own. I'll be talking about these word morals here because they are the beauty I can see right now. So I'm going to talk about this word morals. I just give you that tip. Now let me read the 4 bullet points that come after. It says you should say what you bought, when and where you bought it, why you chose this particular thing, and explain why you liked it so much. Now, let me quickly explain the question. If you paid attention, you realize that the question said something you liked very much, which you bought for your own. So, the question is taking me back to the past. So, when I'm talking, I'm going to be using the past tense because it requires me to say something that happened before now, before this present minute. So, the first bullet point said what you bought. So, I'm going to say the specific thing, the specific item I bought, when I bought it, where I bought it, why I chose that item, and then why I like the item so much. Now, you know that for part 2 questions, you're going to be given 1 minute to think. So you'll be given a small piece of paper apart from your cue card, and then you have the pencil to scribble down, those highlights very quickly before you speak, so that you are not all, here and there, you're looking for what to say. So I'm not going to do the, scribbling down thing. I'm just going to respond like that. So to answer this, I'm going to be talking for about 2 minutes. So I'm going to try to dwell on it for a while. To answer this, this is what it's going to look like. I'd like to talk about a colorful wall mural that I bought for a corner of my dining area in my home, and I purchased this earlier in September, the month of September 2020. Now, I needed this because I needed to add some beauty to my own. We had just relocated to a new location, and I was looking for ways to make the house more colorful and more beautiful. So this was what I chose. I visited one of the supermarkets close to my house, and then I got it for a very affordable price. Now, I chose this wall mural because it was colorful. It had a blend of blue and gray and purple and some touch of brown, and they were all squares, well cut out squares. Some of them were open, some were closed. I was able to decorate them on the wall as I pleased. It reminded me of one I had used before, but this time around they were in squares. That one was shaped like the art, or should I say art shaped. So getting this new wall mural gave me the beauty I needed, because even when I started my YouTube channel videos, it became the background for my recordings, and I've always found it valuable since then. So I hope that, of course, with time I would get more wall murals and more paintings to make my house more colorful and welcoming to anybody that visits me. Okay, that's it. Yeah, I wasn't looking at the time, so I don't know. Did you check when I started? I didn't pay attention to that. I should have checked when I started so that I would compare how much time I spent talking. But even though it wasn't perfect, I hope you get the idea. I mentioned what it is, the wall mural. I mentioned when I got it, where I got it, why I got it, and why I liked it. And I was able to make reference to a previous one I had, and then I even stated that I would like to get more as time goes on. That's basically what your part 2 looks like. You can have different topics, okay? You would have a variety of topics. There are certain topics that you'll find common. But at the end of the day, you're either talking about a person, or a thing, or a place, or an event, experience, or something like that. What matters more is that you know how well to provide answers and just talk, just enjoy yourself, speaking, just be fluent, just let it flow. That's what the IELTS test is about. Remember that it's an informal test, so you don't want to be uptight and tense and looking for what to say in that sense. So I'm going now to part 3. There are 6 questions here. I'm going to take them one by one, and the way part 3 works is you give your response, you support it a little further, that's you expand it, and then you give an example. So I'm going to follow that pattern when answering these questions. Now the first question here says, why do some people buy lots of things for their home? So the question is, why do some people buy lots of things for their home? To answer this, I would say a lot of people buy possessions and items for their houses because they want to create some sense of beauty. Somebody who has a piano and maybe has a lot of wall hangings, art, picture frames. You have maybe bicycles and other things, in the house. All of these things bring this feeling of there's this happiness attached with it. You find beauty, you find that joy in looking at the things you have, and it just gives you peace. For example, someone who has a piano in their home would find that joy, going to sit there and play whenever they're in the mood for music. So I find that possessions bring happiness, bring beauty, and satisfaction whenever you need it. Okay, so did you follow that one? You see that I cited examples of things that people can buy in their home, and then I gave reasons, I gave example for why these things are useful or valuable for the purposes that they serve. So that's that question. Now the next one says, do you think it is very expensive to make a home look nice? Do you think it is very expensive to make a home look nice? Now I'm going to try to answer that question. Well, as far as I know, that's a question that is relative because, it boils down to how much money a person has. So if you're looking at somebody who earns an average income, for example, beautifying the home would be something they would do within their means. So they would look for maybe flower pots, wall murals, affordable, picture frames, and certain other things that are within their budget. So, but there are actually times too when it can be expensive because what if you want to have some very expensive decoration, some expensive drapes and curtains? It might not be easy to keep your house beautiful. So I think it's relative. It depends on how much money a person has. Okay, so this question asks for my opinion. And well, I honestly just gave my opinion. Somebody who earns, let's say 30,000 naira. Okay, my son is up, it's coming out. Okay, so for somebody who earns, yes, boy. Okay, so for somebody who earns about 30,000 naira, you don't expect the person to find it easy to take out money to decorate the home. All they want is the house to sleep and eat and find safety. So that's about it. Now let me just brush through these questions because we're going to have distraction. So why don't some people care about how their home looks? Why don't some people care about how their home looks? If you ask me, a home for certain people is just a place to live, just a place to lay their head. So focusing on beautifying or decorating a home might not be, a priority for them because it doesn't count. What they just want is a place to sleep, a place to put their family together and just find safety. That's all that matters for some people. Okay, so that's that question. You see, I provided the response and then I tried to clarify it or expand it a little further. Okay, so let's brush up through. Let's just run through the last three. In what ways is living in a flat or apartment better than living in a house? In what ways is living in a flat or apartment better than living in a house? Now, if you get the contrast, one is a flat or an apartment. One is British, one is American, and then living in a house. So I'm going to respond to that. Hi, boy. Okay, sorry, let's do this quickly. Now, living in an apartment is actually better than living in a house because it means that you're most likely going to have neighbors that you can relate with. You're not just alone in the house. If it's a mansion, it will be just you and all the space and all the noise. But if it were you, if you have a compound where you have, let's say, 4 apartments, for example, it means that you have 3 other neighbors and then you can associate with them whenever you need to. So there's that harmony and there's that sharing that comes with living in an apartment as opposed to living in a house. Okay, so let me take the next question very quickly. Do you think homes will look different in the future? Do you think homes will look different in the future? I'll respond to that quickly. Yes, I believe that houses, will take on a different look as time goes on. And that's because if we trace history, most houses in the past were huts and, traditional looking houses. But then what you have today, you find a lot of houses made with cement and brick and a lot of other, fancy material. So comparing the past with the present, there's just that strong indication that the future will be even better. So I look forward to something different where houses are built with high tech and the rest of it. Okay, finally, the last question. Do you agree that the kinds of homes people prefer change as they get older? Do you agree that the kinds of homes people prefer change as they get older? Yes, I think it's possible that um, as a person moves from 20 to 40 and the rest of it, their taste for the kind of home that they want, changes. For somebody who is young, you might want a place where you have neighbors, where you can interact with your friends, and just have a lot of people around you. But as you get older, maybe you get to 60 or 70, you just want a place that is quiet and filled with maybe plants and trees and flowers and all of those things that make everywhere serene and peaceful. So yes, it's possible. It's something that I think happens to certain people. Oh, okay. That's the end of the speaking test. Now this is a long one already. But yes, I just wanted to do that to give you a template, like a framework for how you answer speaking questions. Now, this is me just doing it with you. I was my examiner, I was my responder or the test taker. But this is just to give you a preview of what it looks like. So we're going to do other questions and possibly I'll find a partner. Well, my son can't be my partner just yet. But we work it out. But I do hope that you found my responses helpful and then you have a framework to guide you as you prepare for your IELTS listening test. If you do need to take like a mock test before your actual exam, please visit takeielts.net, takeielts.net. It's an organization in Austria that enables people to practice the tests from the comfort of their homes, and it is assessed by certified IELTS examiners, so you have their feedback and you can work with this. I have people who took this mock test earlier in the year, like the week of their exam, and they took one, after 2 days took another one, and of course the result comes after 2 days, and of course their results in the main test was amazing. So don't just spend your 75,000 straight up. Pay your 8,000 or thereabouts to have this mock test, and you find out if you're truly prepared to take the main test. All right then, that's about it from me. Once again, my name is Adenike Balola, and I wish you a wonderful time.